Hey everybody, welcome to It's Just Bodybuilding, episode 122. Damn. Scott McNally, Dusty Hanshaw, Big Ron Partlow. Welcome to It's Just Bodybuilding. Like, share, subscribe, comment, and
ring the bell. God, he's on fire today.
Yeah, I'm just fucking pounding it right out. And then I have to read an ad from Ford, and I have to read an ad from
Tesla. I thought we had Tesla. I didn't realize it was
Adam
Ford.
and Eve sex toys.
Yeah,
and Tesla. Yeah, we're gonna do that.
There we go.
I listened to an episode of Rogan last night. He had this general on that was national security advisor under Trump.
Right.
And it fucking really interesting. Because, I mean, the guy's a general before he became national security advisor. So he's like had this crazy life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, it was funny. There's like this break where Joe, like they play Joe like reading a commercial. And, you know, those are just like, I know Fuad's doing the Manscaped one, isn't he?
I think so. I don't actually watch anyone's
I think Joe's
content.
probably getting paid more than Fuad is. I
a little bit.
But yeah, you know, if anyone out there thinks that we would sound, you know, velvety and buttery reading their ad, then maybe we're up for it too.
Especially Ford. We could definitely do a Ford ad.
Let's ask the people, what ad would they like to see us read on the show?
I actually was approached by the Manscaped people, and I still am on the fence with them, just because I've had some people tell me like, oh yeah, I really like it. And other people like, I nicked my balls every time I used that thing. And do you, what do you think of? I mean, let's make this duet. Use code use code Big Ron.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I can't give them my review yet because they're not.
Oh, I see.
I'm just kidding.
I was genuinely curious. Yeah.
I'm just kidding. The number one rule is you got to like a product. I do like it for taking the, you know, just keeping things trim around the junk. It does. It's pretty good. But I like clippers that go right down for other stuff.
Yes.
You know, because
So
they don't.
it has
like
a permanent guard,
right? Sorry.
I was wondering if it had a permanent guard. So yeah.
Yeah, it kind of gives a little bit of distance, right? Like you can't take things right down to the fucking concrete. But
that's not good for me. I'm a concrete only kind of human, you know.
Yeah. See, I got a really good pair of like barber clippers, you know, like the ones they use on your neck.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I got them like, oh God, they'd be like fucking 20 years old by now. I got them from a hairdresser. Long story. But
did you earn those? Did you?
Well, she might have kept my sweater, and I might have kept her clippers.
Good trade.
Depends on the sweater.
She probably still has a Gorilla Wear sweatshirt in her closet from 1999.
Speaking of, I almost took a picture for you, Ron. So the very first morning I went to the new gym to do cardio. I'm sitting there and I see a guy walk in like direct, and I don't know why, but I just watched him and he walked straight to the calf raise, you know, which is cool, old school, whatever. Then he gets on and I can't see him, but he busts out like, I don't know, 10 sets. And then he comes out and I see him in the T. Michael hoodie. And I was like, it makes perfect sense. This is what a T. Michael guy would do.
10 sets of 10. He probably does it fucking every day trying to get his calves to grow.
Exactly. But I just died. I was like, that shirt is probably older than most of our listeners.
Oh, yeah. There's a guy that trains at my gym that wears some T. Michael boat necks and T. Michael sweatshirts. Yeah. I like seeing them. They're great. I wish the kind of like the King T. Michael that I had, because I had a few, but I had one that was tie-dye neon green.
Oh, nice.
So
Just
there was a lot of neon. Yeah, there was a lot of neon green, but then like the tie-dye was kind of like a dark green, dark bluey green kind of. So it was really fucking bright. And then the logo was like blue and white. So it just fucking, yeah.
Everything they did was that way.
Oh man, the big bat wing, like you stick your arm out and the shirt goes kind of from like midway up your forearm all the way to your waist, pretty much.
Yeah, I definitely remember. I mean, I thought of you immediately when I saw the guy. I was so tempted to just walk over and tell him, like, I need a picture of your relic.
Did he have a tank top on underneath? Like, was it open in the neck or was it a normal neck?
No, it was open in the neck. He didn't. I would have been more impressed if he'd had the stringer underneath. I'd have known.
Yeah, and the key is the key.
Lean over. You got to show them. These youngins don't understand.
So when you got the boat neck shirt, right, and the trap is sticking up, the shirt needs to be cut just a little off the trap. So you see the little.
It's almost
space.
dealt. Yeah.
All built. The shirt has to be cut right there and then come across the top of the clavicle so you see the shelf, right? But then the stringer has to be narrow, like up in your neck. You don't want the string down here. You want it to come up here because then it frames the trap, right?
Well, you can actually put your finger underneath the stringer, right where, you know what I mean?
Right here, you get the hole on because of the shelf. So it's full effect. It's like everything that could possibly make you look thick is enhanced by the boat neck stringer combination. And I might not have ever had good calves, but I had a great look in a boat neck.
I love
had the traps,
that's going on
had
right
the
now.
front delt, the little front delt sticking out, had the upper shelf. Yeah, I love the boat necks. They were good for me. You know, there's always that one clothing item that comes in your lifetime that really makes you look better.
You really shine.
You know?
Yeah, mine's a ski mask.
Yours is a ski mask? I was going to ask what yours
Full
was.
face. I killed it in the 2020 era when everyone started wearing masks.
Right.
It's my best look.
Yeah,
for certain.
You know, it's funny. I was walking through a building the other day, like an office building, and there was this hallway
actually through the building. Go ahead.
Yeah. There was. So I was walking. It was like a 2-minute walk to where I was going, and it wasn't. I'm not familiar at all with the building, right? And it's a very like professional building. Like there's lawyers in there and stuff. So I had my mask on. But I also had my hood up because it had been pretty cold out. So I just happened to have my hood up and I just forgot I had it up. So I had a hat like this, a hood and a mask, right? All black. I had a black hoodie, black t-shirt, black sweats, black shoes. And the hallway happened to have some lights that were out. Like it was a dark hallway. And I was approaching this woman. And I just remember thinking like, I feel weird right now because I feel like she should want to turn and run from me.
5 years ago, she'd be terrified. Like terrified.
Can you imagine if that was just 2018?
Yeah.
She was walking down that hallway and looked up and saw me coming. It would have just been funny. We're all fucked up, Dusty.
I thought we were about to hear the story of the first time Ron got tased.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, Jesus, 2018. She would have had the zapper.
Yeah.
I used to train the guy that owned the taser company.
What?
Yeah, in Scottsdale.
Huh.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then it became a big mess, obviously, and now the rules are all altered for them. And you used to be able to just buy one. Just go grab one.
Yeah.
You can't anymore, huh?
No.
I remember a girl showing me her taser.
Yeah.
She was like, stay away from me. And she was shaking it at me.
That was 2 days ago. You just told the story. We were here.
Have you seen those TikTok videos of girls tasing themselves with their like, those like ones that, I don't know which ones, but they're the ones that girls have like, in case they get mugged in a parking lot. No. But there's like girls on TikTok that are like hitting themselves with them.
Huh.
And then they fucking fall down on the floor and they go, holy fuck. And they scream.
I bet.
It's fucking hilarious.
I just love that they know that that's what's going to happen. And they're like, film this. Here we go.
Hey, another thing the Simpsons predicted. Bart sticking his fucking finger in the socket. Ouch, ouch, ouch.
Ow, quit it.
Yeah. So what's new? What's new with Scott? Let's start with Scott today.
Oh man, I wasn't ready for all that. I was just ready to like listen to the show and stuff.
No, I want to hear the update on what Scott's doing. You had a great leg workout. You're feeling a little better.
Yeah, it's been pretty good. I have something though. It is completely not just bodybuilding talk that I have to share with you guys. It's kind of funny and it's kind of terrible at the same time. So you guys are telling me, like, as of 2 episodes ago, how awesome the new season of Dexter is. So yes. I don't really watch a lot of TV. I have Hulu and we watch like a little bit now and then, but I went ahead and I figured out it's on Showtime anytime. So I had to figure out how to get that, which was a whole other story in itself. Cause I don't buy the shit normally, and I get it. And so I'm finally all excited. We sit down and we watch it, and we hit play and just watched it. We watched the last episode first.
Oh no.
Victoria's like, we don't really know who any of these characters are. And I'm like, yeah, I know. They're just throwing us right into it. She's like, this is really intense for a first episode. And I was like, yeah, it really is.
This is amazing.
So now we went back. We are on episode 4 or 5. And we're watching it. Yeah. And we're like trying to, there's no suspending disbelief. It's just like, but you can still like enjoy the moment. Like there's like little things that are happening. Like I know eventually, this guy's not going to get caught doing this right now because this happens later. You're
getting the backfill though, right?
Yeah.
The backfill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we're
you're still surprised.
It'll all make sense by episode 11.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I thought you guys would appreciate that. I've never made that mistake before, but literally it was like Dexter, we're like, sweet, boom, hit the play button.
You'd watched the first 8 seasons,
oh yeah,
right?
I loved that show. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you didn't understand half of it because I know of the whole show now. It's very funny to think of all the things that don't make sense.
Yeah, we were like, well, I guess this is they're going to tell this guy. They're going to tell this as it goes. They're going to retell, whatever. It's like
a Tarantino.
Maybe there'll be flashbacks.
Yeah, exactly.
Flashbacks coming up. Well, yeah, you kind of did that.
Pretty much.
You created your own.
You created your own edit of the season.
They show you
you're watching
that's
the
like
remix.
where they show you like almost the end of something, and then they say 4 days earlier.
Exactly.
And then you catch up, you watch it again, and then you see the true ending. You guys should have just, I don't know, had your cable go out like 5 minutes before the end.
Yeah. So whatever. We're making the best of it. It's still really good though. It's like, and I love that town. Like I love the feel of that the little town that they're in. That place is cool.
Yeah. Speaking of, now that you've almost ruined that one, I started watching Mayor of Kingstown, which is written by the same guy who wrote Yellowstone.
Huh.
And it's fucking amazing. It's only one season. It's 10 episodes so far, and I'm only allowing myself to watch 1 episode a day because I would watch the whole thing in one day.
Okay.
It's literally as good as Yellowstone. Yellowstone, the guy who is that like drove Jimmy down to Texas.
Yeah,
the horse guy?
He's the writer, isn't he?
He's the writer. Yeah, he's the writer, and he writes all of them. And he's got some characters from Yellowstone in this movie or this show as well.
Oh, like crossover characters.
Yeah, well, no, I mean you don't know that they're on the other show, but like the cop with the bald head on Yellowstone is a cop in this show.
Oh, is he the same cop?
No. He's just happens. He's like, I already got a cop. He's right here. He's bald. It'll work.
Right. Okay. I see what you mean.
He just worked him overtime. Probably screwed him on the price a little bit to get him for both. It was perfect.
Right. Yeah.
But yes, you guys should watch that show for sure.
Mayor of Kingstown.
Yes.
Okay.
And they don't fuck around. They get to it. Episode 1. You're like, I'm in.
Okay. I'm watching the Book of Boba Fett.
Oh shit!
And
that makes sense for you.
It's very good. I just Jon Favreau just has saved Star Wars for me from Disney's horrible grasp. they did such a terrible job with the 3 main movies that they made. You know, the Force Awakens. Was it the? I can't even remember the fucking second one. The Last Jedi was the last one. Who cares? Anyways, they were like entertaining and fun to watch, but they had so many things wrong with them. And Rogue One, one of the side stories, was like a spectacular fucking movie. It was the best thing Disney did since they touched the whole franchise, was Rogue One. It was the only thing they did right. Like, it was just so fucking awesome. I watched Rogue One like 4 times. And they did such a just home run on that. And then, you know, Solo was fun and like kind of cool. And there was like one real stupid part in it, but the rest of the movie was good. And, you know, like they haven't really been good with it. They fucked up a lot of Star Wars. And then Jon Favreau came along with The Mandalorian, and it was just fucking so fun. And now the Book of Boba Fett's just so fun. And they're just giving the old fans like me all the little treats that we want. It's just candy. Yeah, every 5 minutes there's a candy. You know?
See, I wouldn't even know. I actually thought of you this weekend, Ron, because I saw this thing. Whoever this bitch is, I don't know, but it's Leonardo DiCaprio's ex-girlfriend. She did a talk show where she talked about her worst date ever with him, where he rented out a movie theater and watched all the episodes of Star Wars playing with a lightsaber. And I love the comments because girls are like, that's the greatest date I've ever heard in my life. That bitch doesn't deserve him.
That's so funny.
I was
That's
like,
so
Ron
funny.
would be so proud of these people.
Hey, there's some Star Wars girls out there. Definitely some Star Wars girls out there.
Yeah.
You know, I know girls with Star Wars tattoos.
Whoa.
Oh, yeah. I know girls with Star Wars tattoos. Lots of them. Yeah.
Yeah. Is that where you got the clippers? Anyways.
There may or may not have been an R2D2 or something. I don't know.
Sorry, I like things to go full circle. I'm sorry.
There's a lightsaber going. Never mind. You know.
That was one of the comments, by the way. They're like, "What? You didn't get a lightsaber?
Yeah.
Is that why it wasn't fun?" Oh, good shit.
There was a vent, an open vent tattooed. Anyone who knows how Star Wars ends gets the joke.
Like,
okay. What about Dusty?
Well, as you saw, I got snow.
Yes. So I was very happy about that. And I felt like maybe that was like me wanting you to suffer. And I shouldn't be enjoying it.
That's very odd behavior, Ron. Well, what was funny was, which I filmed some of, so the dogs obviously haven't seen snow.
Huh.
And it was great because, you know, they're always excited to go out in the morning. You know how your dogs are. So I ripped the door open and they both stop. And they just looked down and they looked at me and they're like, the fuck is this? So I'm like, I coax them out, right? And it lasts like a minute and then they go back in the house. So I gave them a minute, kind of refresh. And I'm like, all right, I just got this feel. So I slide my Chucks on, but literally just slip my toes in, walk out to see what'll happen. And then Donna just comes tearing out of the house and she realizes it's fun. Harvey flips me the bird and walks back in the house. And yeah, that was it. But the exciting thing here is they don't plow the roads because they don't get snow that often. And people are deathly afraid. So I headed to the gym yesterday. I had like the whole street to myself, you know. Then the few people I told Scott, big truck. Like, yeah, I threw it in 4-wheel drive and just zoomed. It was no problem.
And those tires too. Like you could drive in northern Alberta with those in the worst.
Oh yeah, it was literally nothing, but it was so nice. Get to the gym. There's 2 people there. I'm like, nobody's out. You know, same thing today. The normal gym I go to was closed yesterday, so they opened up today, and I got there, and it was just the GM training one guy and us. I'm like, this is fan. I put a video up on my story. I'm like, this is great. So yeah, I'm a fan of snow because it gets rid of people. So that's cool.
It does. Terrible weather is like the decider at the gym.
Yeah, you know who's the hardcore people.
Oh yeah, you get to the gym and it's all the same people you see like that you expect to see at the gym when in terrible weather. Yeah.
Pulled in, and as soon as I realized that the giant gym parking lot was empty, I'm like, we might do a couple extra circles within a 20-foot radius,
Right.
and then park.
Yeah.
Gotta have some fun. Did you see how I adjusted my microphone so it looks like Dusty and I are using the same microphone?
Somebody commented on that.
I don't know why.
Did they really?
I took that.
Yeah, they saw that last week. They're like, does anybody ever notice that? It looks like they're using the same mic.
Maybe we are. No.
It's kind of funny, right?
Yes. So that is it. The only other thing going on for me, Ron, is I got a new sponsor. Everyone knows who it is, and I can't say it. So there's that.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm really excited to find out.
Me too.
It's just, guys, you wait, and you're going to be shocked.
Yeah, I know. Also, too, another thing was Mutant got a new guy on, but they haven't told me who he is yet.
Huh.
So I guess I'll meet him when we travel. But they put out a teaser.
The last one.
Yeah. Well, there's, I won't mention any duds. But yeah, I'm hoping the new guy's good. I don't know. I don't know what's going on now. He might be one of these social media whorish,
probably.
Sort of like say anything. It could just be a bad decision. So we'll see.
Anything
but I hope
money,
I hope your deal goes good. Look forward to hearing when they're ready to.
People are going to be shocked when they find out it's Coca-Cola. Anyways, I've went up a little bit.
Or Red Bull.
Did you have questions? Did you get a question box?
Yeah, actually, I got a good question.
Yes.
Everyone talks about what music they train to. What movie could you train to?
Oh, shit. Waiting.
Like imagine a big screen in the gym just playing a movie.
Rocky 4.
That's a good one.
That's a good one.
Yeah, Rocky 4. That would work.
That's a good one. In between sets, you could look up and you'd see what was. You'd be like, I remember this fucking part. I hear he's getting ready for the fight.
Yeah.
Right before my set, if he dies, he dies. I'm like, oh fuck.
He dies. So you do one set in 2 hours?
It's a typical workout, is it not?
That's Dusty's speed. I was thinking like something like 300 or Braveheart.
Oh yeah.
There's just like nonstop sword fighting and like things that make you angry. Braveheart would get you really angry. You'd look up and you'd see that the king being a king, and you'd want to fucking,
That makes sense. I could use the evening news for that one also.
Oh man, yeah, you can't watch the news. That'll ruin your workout if the evening news was on. It wouldn't be the right type of.
That's the wrong anger.
The wrong anger. Yeah. That's the anger that's distracting and destroys everything. You can't have that, man.
What about you,
Scott?
Scott?
Be doing that. What about you, Scott?
I'm going to go with the obvious, and I'll say too that when you walk into a gym and they're playing like the old Mitsuru videos of like Jay Cutler and Ronnie, when you walk in the gym and they're playing that stuff, you instantly know, like, I don't even care what equipment's here. It's good. Like, I'm home,
Yeah.
True.
So that's funny. My buddy Braden, the guy I train with, he's got a TV in his home gym. So we'll crank the music, but then he'll put on like an old Jay Cutler video on YouTube, or he'll put like Battle for the Olympia up or something.
Yeah.
Quite a bit. And it's pretty cool because it reminds me of like a couple of gyms that I've been to that played like Battle for the Olympia videos.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So I can do that on the TV at the juice bar. I do that. Like I put the Olympia on there and you know what I mean? We do stuff like that. So it was funny when we opened the gym, we took all the TVs off the wall because there used to be some TVs in the gym, and we took them all down because we were like, we don't want to look like one of those commercial gyms. We don't want any distractions. You know what I mean?
I agree with that.
And it was funny. A lot of people were like, I really like how you guys took the TVs down. I used to stand here and watch football for like 10 minutes.
Oh yeah, you see people doing that.
Yep.
And everyone stopped doing it. So yeah, I don't know. It's kind of cool.
It's a good move.
Yeah, it keeps everybody focused, right? You got a question, Dusty?
I have a million questions. That's what's good about the question box. They don't fuck around. I feel like sometimes that some of the questions are like been asked 1,000 times, so I feel bad.
I'll look up the YouTube stuff too, because I think we had some questions in the last episode.
How would you train for size and strength, and what gear would you use? I'd definitely do second gear. It's, sorry. Go ahead. Dad jokes are my favorite.
That can't be a real question.
That's a real question. They want all of it. I'm like, well,
no, they want like bodybuilding summed up.
Yes. And
how would you train for
I'm supposed to do it in
strength?
15 seconds when I answer this later.
And what gear would you use? Okay.
Yes, all of the above.
Train fucking hard. Make sure you're recovering and seeing progression. And use real gear.
And if the bladder don't splatter up the dose.
Yeah, there you go.
If the liver don't quiver, the bladder don't splatter up the dose.
If the walls are rocking, don't come knocking.
That was a real question. I was like, wow, you're asking for a lot here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it forced me to do it in 15 seconds. So there you go.
You got it done.
How would you solve world hunger, Dusty? In 15 seconds.
That's what they do to like those the pageant girls. Yeah, how would you do this? It's like, well, if I could solve it, you think I'd be on this fucking stage?
Yeah.
I'd ask Elon what to do. He probably knows the answer.
Well, Elon offered to solve world hunger, but he asked for receipts.
I saw that one. It was gold.
Didn't go over too well.
That was the most fantastic. He's like, I'll give you the billion. What was it, like $8 billion now?
Something more than that. It was some crazy amount of money. And he was like, I'll fucking give it to you, but I want to see the books. And it was funny.
Crickets.
Yeah.
Wonder how that one works.
Wow.
Let's see. Oh, this is actually a good one.
Pennies on the dollar are actually feeding anybody most of the time. Okay, go ahead.
I'm curious what you would do with this besides see your PT. How to fix elbow tendonitis during heavy presses.
Well, I mean, that's kind of a hard question to like how to fix it. Well, first of all, stop doing anything that hurts. That's rule number one. So anything that hurts, which means if you pressing one plate aside hurts, stop pressing. If you can press one plate aside with zero pain, then you can press one plate aside. Do some high rep sets, keep the movement, but you can't train if there's pain. You got to rest it. Tendonitis requires rest. Like real true tendonitis, you need to let it calm down and do its own thing. And it's really hard to speed it up other than with friction massage and stuff like that. If it's actually in the tendon and you got to calm the muscle down with Graston or active release. My personal answer is most tendonitis is related to a tight muscle. Yeah. And so the tendon is always under more tension than it should be. So it never gets a rest. And that's why the tendon hurts. So it's not actually the tendon that has the problem. It's the muscle most of the time with my experience. So I go get active release or Graston or some sort of something where the fibers have to do this, that sort of therapy I really like personally. And I've had times where I couldn't do press downs with 30 pounds. And I went and had my tricep Graston and ART'd and stretched out. And days later, I'm doing the stack. I've had that happen. Mm-hmm. So it could be that.
Scott?
I think, that's a big one, Ron, is whatever you're doing that's bothering it, that if you keep doing that, it's not going to get better. Have you guys both have tennis elbow issues in your life? I feel like every bodybuilder has at some point.
I had a year where I couldn't do side laterals.
No kidding.
Because I couldn't hold the dumbbell. It was fucking brutal.
Using straps, I think, helps because a lot of it has to do with gripping. So if you're trying to grip hard, if your grip isn't strong enough, then everything that controls the hand is from the wrist to the elbow. and you can overstrain those tendons. And like Ron was saying, you know, those muscles will get strained in the process, and then you get that inflammation in the tendon. So ice, rest, you know, massage therapy, kind of like deep, you know, real intense stuff to break that up. But then also I think, like, you know, if you're not using straps, use straps, even on things that you might not use straps on, and just watch how hard you're gripping stuff. I think that stuff would be, you know, a big change, and maybe some BPC 157, but I wouldn't say that's the answer, because if you use that and that's it, and you aren't doing that other stuff, then it's just going to, you know, come back when you're done.
Yeah. The only thing I would add is it's a Band-Aid. It's not fixing anything. Is they make those wraps that go on the forearm that actually have like a piece of plastic or whatever that it's like a pressure point. Those things work, because I've had that same thing, Ron, where I couldn't push anything. The only thing I would think about was that my forearm was going to explode. Got those wraps for like $15, and I could train without the issue while I was getting it fixed, and then it was good to go. Yeah. And my PT didn't mind me doing that either.
Right. Mark Bell gave me a set of like these forearm cuffs, and they're only like a couple inches wide, but they're pretty tight, and they would sit like right below my elbow.
Yep.
Right on all the tendons, right? And he gave them to me, compression cuffs, I guess. He gave them to me, and I wore those whenever I was pressing, or I would wear them on chest and shoulder day, basically. And I wore those for like the last 2 years that I was, you know, training to compete. Right. I wore them all the time because I really noticed I had better workouts when I had those on. Like, it made a big difference. So I would have those compression things on just below the elbow on the forearm, and then I would have like a sleeve on over top, but the sleeve wasn't like that tight. I'd wear it for the whole workout. You know what I mean? Right. It was just like kind of just, you know, snug,
keeping it warm.
Yeah. And I could train, but if I didn't have my fucking elbow shit, I was not doing chest. That's for sure.
This is not happening.
No, do some pec tech and go home without that stuff. So, you know,
I've got one.
When I see guys just barehanding everything with no elbow pain, and I'm just like, oh, those were the days.
Yeah, kids. I had a couple of them here. One of them was a follow-up from Dusty talking about the 20 rep leg sets. He says 20 reps on legs is brutal. I have a question about it. So my top hack squat is 4.5 plates each side for 9 reps. There's no way that I'd be able to get 20 reps as I train alone. Would you recommend dropping the weight to 3 plates on each side so that I can get 20 reps, or should I continue to go heavy with my reps around 8 or 9, currently in my off season and trying to grow my legs?
I mean, the answer is obviously, I still think you should go down. If you're going to get a different stimulus. This is the way I look at it. If you take somebody who's doing 20 rep sets all the time and you go to the gym and you do sets of 10 or 12, they're going to be crippled for a couple of days. Same thing in reverse. So I do think that you're going to have to go down. I mean, you already nailed it. If you can do 8 or 9 reps with 4 plates and a quarter per side, well, obviously you can't do 20. You just told me you can do 8 or 9. But you should be using a weight for your 20 rep set. The way I do it is you don't have to get them straight. Like, I shoot for a weight that I can get, say, 15 with, and then I'll muscle out 1 rep at a time, 5. So it's still 20 reps. You don't rack it, but you can rest at the top, take a couple breaths, go again. I love doing that, and that's my favorite. It's just like a Widowmaker. Like, as long as you don't rack the weight, you're still going. And I mean, we're talking 2 or 3 quick breaths and go. But I always say it's like 1 set of 15 and 5 sets of 1 is my 20. You know, so yeah. That's my 2 cents on it, and I think you get great results that way. I've found, for me personally, of course, too late because the career was already done, but I think due to, it could just be genetic, but it could be the fact that I skated my whole life. Training heavy for low reps for legs, they got strong, they didn't really change. I started doing 15, 20, 30, 40 reps, and my legs started changing. They're probably going to be better than they ever were in the next 6 months just because of those changes. you know, and I love it. There is a different thing that happens in your brain too. I know Ron's a fan of these. Like, you almost go into a trance because it's light enough. You're cranking out in the beginning, you know, 10, 12 reps pretty easy. And then it's like all of a sudden, there's been those times where at like 12, I'm like, I'm going to get 30, you know, right. And then at 13, I'm like, I'm going to get 14.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah. I've had a lot of people ask me, like, what does a 20 rep set mean? Like, you know, and that's exactly what it is. And same thing but that's how I always trained with everything. Like, if you tell me to get 10 reps, like, okay, we're training to failure in the 10 rep range. Right. So you're trying to get, then it's like you pick a weight where you almost fail at 8, and then you lock out and breathe, crank out another one, lock out and breathe, go for the 10th. Yep. Like, that's kind of always been my style. So you just extend that up. So if you're going for 20 reps and you're kind of shooting for like the 13 to 15 without stopping, you know, you got to at least get 12 without stopping, right? Yep. If you don't make it to 12, it's a long road to get to 20. But if you can at least get 12 nonstop reps, then you can pause 13, 14, and you could start like, or even 2 at a time breath, at a time breath, and you can crank out the 20. And those sets are supposed to be very, very tough. Like, I often write a program for someone and I'll say leg press, you know, 1 set at 12, 1 set at 20. They're like, oh, well, I mean, I did both those sets. I'm like, oh man, no, they're not like 12 and 20. It's like 8 to 12, like 8 forcing yourself to get 12, and then like 14 grinding to 20. Like, that's what those sets are supposed to be.
Right. No, I think that's the key too, is it's got to be that grind, because I can't remember the number now, but yesterday I did 16 plates on the hack squat for 10 with like a real slow controlled negative. And then my plan was to do 10 plates, so 5 plates aside, for 20. I was like, this should be pretty hard with a 2 or 3 minute rest to do this. And at like 18, I knew that 20 wasn't enough. So I was like, fuck it, I'm just going to keep going. And I ended up failing at 30, and I was really proud of myself until I realized I forgot to put a plate on one side. So I had 4 plates on one side and 5 on the other. But the point really was I hadn't done that in a long time, so I just guessed. I was like, well, today it's tough, and I'm fatigued from that. So I think 5 will be pretty tough for 20. I would, if I was going to do it again, I'd probably do 6 and get 20, because I sped the reps up too. I mean, I was cranking those versus the 6 count negative on the heavy one. But yeah, I love
one thing. One thing I do a lot of now is with training with my partner is we still have the first main set, and on legs I'll still be in the 10 to 12 range on that. Right, I'm using enough weight that 10 to 12 is like a very, very difficult challenge. But then the back off set is either a 20 rep set, or it's another 10 to 12 rep set, but with extremely slow negatives. Right. So it's like a minute long. Right. So it's one of those two things, but the back off set has been like more of a back off weight wise. Right. And I really find that, me being a bit banged up is really helping me. So I'm enjoying it.
What else we got, Scott? You got a couple.
Yeah, I had one about business. Let's see here. Now, I don't know if this is what's the guy you work with, Ron Morgan. What's his last name?
Oh, which one? McDonald or Sharp?
This is Morgan Mac Bodybuilding. Yeah, so I'm wondering if this is
Morgan McDonald. Yeah.
He says, question for the next episode. Do you have any advice on optimizing business and bodybuilding at the same time so that you are successful at both, but don't take on too much so that one takes away from the other?
Oh, interesting. Well, you're just kind of trying to find the right balance there, I know Morgan obviously really well. He's his own boss, right? So, he has the advantage of being his own boss. So he can just set his bodybuilding into his schedule first, right? Training here, I'm eating my meals. He's a pro too, right? So, I mean, it's all part of his business, right? It's not like it's business first and then his bodybuilding. It's like, no, it's like fucking for him. It's like that. So I would set my bodybuilding up exactly the way I wanted it, because that is the most sustainable way, right? You're trying to train like a pro, eat like a pro, set it up exactly how you want it with no compromise. Like, I like to train at this time. I like to eat at this time. I'm going to take these days off, etc. Then you put your work in the holes. And that's, to me, always been the most sustainable way was always the way that I was a bodybuilder. That's why I worked in the bar. I mean, right? We weren't making money on the internet back in my day, right? We all had to actually have jobs where you leave the fucking house. So that was why I worked at the bar, because it was killer money and minimal hours, right? Because I'd work 3 nights a week, make great money, fucking the rest of the week was mine. So that's what you would do if you were self-employed, or just trying to get jobs to fit where you want them. Is, first make sure you know exactly how you want your training set up. You might have to make the odd compromise. Mondays you might have to train in the morning, but maybe it's only the one day, So that's how I would do it.
So the other end of the spectrum that I ran into, actually, so I think this is a good toss-up, is my business when I owned my supplement stores and bodybuilding. They appeared to go really, really well together. The problem was bodybuilding became a business of its own, not just training, but I was traveling the world. I was gone for weeks at a time. And what I ran into was actually the opposite, which was I realized at one point that, and I was making a very good income as a bodybuilder and a very good income as a business owner. But what I realized was my competition wasn't doing both. Meaning, when I was in Germany, worried about doing the expo and training and eating, and then, at the very last minute, getting on my computer and working for 3 hours at night on my business, the competitors in that business were waking up every day saying, how can I beat Dusty's ass? And that was the only thing they cared about. And it just became something for me where I realized, and again, I'm fortunate because I could make a career out of bodybuilding, but I realized that I could be a mediocre, what I would call an influencer back then, because I was never much of a bodybuilder, and a mediocre business owner, or I could be great at one of them. And all I did is I made the selection that I can own businesses later. I can't do this later. And that's why I sold my stores. Because it just became very obvious to me that they were never going to go where they could have went with the right person there, and I could just cash out now. So that's the only other thing to look at. Now, of course, I was fortunate because I was making money on bodybuilding, but is something to look at, because in life, I don't care what anyone says, you can't do two things that fight for time at the highest level at the same time. You can do it at a great level, and you can be a great bodybuilder, but it does impact something like a business. And if you're obsessive like I am, doing anything partially makes me nauseous. So I just have to get out, But that's the other thing to think about, because it is impacting your business whether you want to admit it or not. I know a lot of people say that I can prep and do all this. Yeah. And I did that too. But, for example, I was in Australia for 3 weeks straight one year. You cannot tell me that doesn't hurt your business. It just does. So,
right.
Yeah, but factors. But what you said is accurate. That is the best way to do both. If because Morgan's not traveling the world right now. So outside of that, I look at it very basically. It only takes 5 minutes to eat a meal. You're eating 6 of them a day. Right. It shouldn't impact work.
Exactly. Yeah. You also don't ever want to make excuses, right? Like, Ronnie was a fucking full-time cop, for Christ's sakes. So, at the end of the day, you just got to fucking get it done,
Yeah.
Fight hard, stay positive, move forward. Yeah. All that stuff. You got another one, Scott?
Got one more. We had a bunch of people. Yeah, we had a bunch of people too that were that commented. Well, just in general, I want to say thanks to everybody who commented and took part in helping to boost us up in the algorithm. All that stuff is super helpful to get more people to see the show. And we had a bunch of people that commented about like what training equipment they liked. Like we talked about your favorite leg press and stuff. So we got some good conversation there. And then I had one more question. He says, I'm curious, would taking orals at night before bed help with the stomach issues? Has anyone tried this? The German badass Roman, I'm sure he means Roman Fritz, said he's been taking A-bombs before bed to avoid stomach problems.
I always used to, if I ever did take orals, I always took them like mainly at night.
Really? Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like let's say I was taking, 30 mgs a deep a day. I might take 10 in the morning and like 20 before bed. Just because I've always taken most of my pills before bed, like all my vitamins, my minerals. I kind of go to bed with all that in my stomach with my last meal. I know a lot of people take their vitamins in the morning, but I would just fucking bomb everything at night, man. Yeah. I don't know. I forget to take shit. I just take it all at night. That's how at least it gets in the system. But when it comes to stuff like Anadrol, hurting the appetite and stuff, I do recommend that people try that first. Like, if you really want to take Anadrol and you start to have stomach problems or appetite problems, try taking it right before bed, And then the next step would be try just taking it 5 days a week. Right?
Yeah,
right.
Okay.
Because you know what I mean? Just have days off of it, or 2 on, 1 off.
Yeah.
See because I've had people tell me that when they just cut back on the frequency of their Anadrol, it went completely fine. But I've had times where it just destroyed my appetite like beyond zero. So really weird.
Yeah, it's a good question. I've never done that. I used to always do it like an hour before I trained.
That's what I figured everybody did.
That's what I know. It was in the system. But if I had a brain, I would have thought that through. Well done. I just bailed immediately. Fuck this shit.
Well, I always read half-lives, and I figured, the half-life of most orals is still like, you really only have to take them once a day. They're still in your system. They're not as high, but it's not like they're gone. You're not going to pass a drug test in 24 hours.
It's a very valid way of looking at it. They don't just disappear.
Yeah, they trail off, You're failing a drug test for a full week,
That's what.
Okay. You got one, Dusty?
Yes. Actually, this is a good one. Besides squats, what's the best glute/leg workout for females?
Oh.
It's for everyone, but it's female asking, so.
But with no squats.
Well, because she's already saying squats. She understands. She knew that would be my answer, is what that is.
Just squat. Just squat.
Yeah, just squat. Well, I mean, they got to do, Romanians or stiff leg deadlifts. Mm-hmm. I mean, you got to do those. Barbell hip thrusts are a fantastic exercise for glutes. Like we know that from the scientific studies.
Yeah.
Like hip thrusts and squats are the big glute activators, like craziness. Yep. So I would throw those in there. And I mean, I'm just trying to think like bang for buck, like the most muscle activation possible. So then you throw in a single leg, like a lunge or something.
I was going to say, a walking lunge heavy to me.
Yeah.
If they're not in your rotation, put them in this week. I promise the next 2 days you're going to go, oh, that's my ass. Got it. I think walking lunges are one of those things, especially for me, barbell, because I really do think there's something to be said for all the things you don't want to do are the ones that are going to give you the most bang for the buck.
I actually did very few walking lunges in my life. Most of the lunges I did were inside a gym in the squat rack.
Okay.
Where you would like lunge forward and explode back.
Yeah.
Yeah. And those are they're a different animal because you're driving back really hard and you get a lot of toe drive and a lot of quad when you explode out of there. And you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
for sure.
They feel different than walking lunges. Walking lunges, you get that squat out of the hole. But those other ones are different. So you can do those too. You don't have to walk. Those are great.
Yeah.
So
I always like to use the outside of the gym. I'd go out the back door, take all my shit with me. The owner's like, I fucking hate this guy.
Yeah. There's a couple of gyms that we were able to do that at back when we were doing those. Yeah. Okay. You got another one? Hey?
Scott?
Yeah, I don't have any other questions. I will add to that one though. I have personal experience with having weak glutes. I was one of those guys that no matter what I did with squatting, I figured out how to get it to go to my quads, but outside of that, it was like all hips or something. Like I never got like the big glutes that everybody else has gotten when they squatted. So, and then I also had like a lot of lower back issues. And I started trying to train my glutes to try to get them to grow so that they would show through faster when I'd get lean, and have more detail. And then as a result, it fixed my lower back too. It was like, it turned out being that was a problem. But I started actually training with one of my clients. Shout out to IFBB Pro Amy Landry. And I just went to the gym with her and I was like, let's do a glute day. She's a bikini pro. I was like, show me how to do this. And she got me interested in Brett Contreras. And so I started following his stuff. And the thing I'll add is that what Brett says is that there's 3 directions to train the glute from. One would be a squat type movement. Another would be a hinge type movement, like, like a stiff leg. And then the other one would be like an abductor type movement where you're pressing out. So I would say try to make sure that when you are training glutes to tackle one thing at least, from each one of those directions to make sure you kind of get it all.
Right.
And what does he say? What does Brett Contreras say about the abduction machine?
I'm not sure.
I don't believe he's a big fan of it.
No, I haven't seen him using that a lot.
So anyone who understands how the muscle works wouldn't be.
Yeah.
I think the problem is that with the I might not be correct here, but I think the main problem with the abduction machine is that you're hinged at the hip because you're sitting.
Well, it's also how you're sitting, because if you've done like a glutenator, which appears to be the same thing, you'll find out quickly it is not the fucking same thing. Those things are brutal.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, and I know the deadlift, the hinge movement is really important, and the squat movement, they're the most important because they load the biggest part of the glute, the maximus, and they put that in a stretch, so you get the most bang for your buck. So it's like the long head of the tricep, it's the biggest muscle in the arm. You got to train it. So you see a girl spending like more time on the like little things and not enough on like the fucking biggest muscle in the glute.
Yeah,
right. That's funny. That's why I do my RDLs and stuff the way I do, is because my glutes overpower my hamstrings so much that as soon as the glute would activate, I go back down. So I'm literally in the stretch. So when people watch, I'll have people ask me, "Oh, I've been doing these wrong my whole life." I go all the way up. I'm like, no. Do that. Don't do what I'm doing. This is for, there's a reason for this. Because as soon as the low back or glute would really start essentially finishing the top of the movement, I go back down. So my range is like maybe 3/4, probably not even all the way up.
Yeah.
So I've probably ruined so many people's form because they're like, "Oh, I'll just do what he's doing." I'm like, "No, unless you have a giant ass and terrible hamstrings." I have both.
Giant ass and terrible hamstrings.
Oh, it's just it's a great combo. It looks like it doesn't even fit. It's like this giant thing in a straight line. I'm like, I can't get like a little bump back there. Ridiculous. Not good. Every girl in town wants to figure out how I did that. I'm like, bad genetics. You're welcome.
That's funny. My poor genetics are your dream.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry about that.
No. That's funny.
Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm going to take a brief moment to shout out our sponsors. I'll make it quick, but this stuff's super important because it's our sponsors that help to make this show possible. If it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be here. And if it wasn't for you shopping with our sponsors, we wouldn't be here either. You can support our programming by shopping with TrueNutrition.com. They're our title sponsor. They've supported us for a number of years. They have awesome health and performance supplements, You can ask Skip or Dusty or Scott Stevenson all about True Nutrition, and they'll tell you how good of a company they are. Hardcore bodybuilders have trusted them for over 15 years now. Use our code THINK. You'll get some savings. You'll support our programming. If you're in Canada, you can shop with supplementsource.ca. They have highly discounted supplements, discounts on bulk orders, and free shipping over $99. Check them out. And finally, you can directly support our programming on Patreon. I'll have links below for Patreon and everything else. We're taking more questions over there, and I appreciate everybody who's already helping to directly support our programming through our Patreon. All right, guys, thanks for hanging with me. Let's get back to the show.
You got one?
I got one. Best accomplishment in your 20s, best accomplishment in your 30s.
Ooh.
It's hard to narrow down best, so just a good one, because I had a lot of really awesome positives and a lot of really amazing fuck-ups too. So,
best accomplishments. Well, I'm trying to remember how old I was when I bought my first house.
That's the same thing. That was my answer, because I got my first house when I was 20. And I was like, there you go.
Oh, you were way younger.
That's young.
I think I bought my house in 2005. So I turned 30 that year. So I think I must have been 29.
Nice.
So I guess technically purchasing a house in my 20s was my biggest accomplishment. I think I was 29. I didn't really think about that. So yeah, I guess. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That counts?
You're in now. What's in your 30s though?
So then what's in my 30s?
Meeting me does not count.
What's that?
I said meeting me does not count as an accomplishment.
Yeah. Well, I guess I turned pro when I was 39.
You got a tens thing going here. 29, 39.
But I also moved. I think that my greatest accomplishment was moving. Like my big move out here with Emily was really crucial, because my entire life changed. You know what I mean? It moved out here.
You cleaned up on that first accomplishment from 29 also.
Well, yeah, you got to sell that one. And then bring that.
And I know that was a fat one.
Bring that equity out here, and yeah, so that was great. Moving out here and buying this condo with Emily in 2015, and then I turned pro that same year. So 2015 was a real big year. Sold my house in Edmonton, made the giant move, started working with Mutant, got my pro card, bought the condo.
Were you in your 30s when you bought the gym, or were you in your 40s?
No, 40s. Yeah.
Okay.
It was 2017. So it was the day after my 42nd birthday. We opened.
Yeah, how about you, Dusty?
Solid. I was gonna say, how about you? Okay.
I know you were. I was jumping ahead because I knew you.
All right. Well, Ron stole the house thing, but I thought that was. I was proud of my house just because I could not believe that somebody was going to give me that much money when I was 20 years old. But if not that, then I bought the 5 supplement stores when I was 26, I think. So that was pretty awesome. And then 30s. Oh, damn it. I was going to say not dying, but I was 40. That time I almost died. Yeah, I just turned 40, so that doesn't work. Man, nothing. I mean, it's so funny, but when I think of things that I consider giant accomplishments, my 30s was just everything I put in place in my late 20s has just pushed through into my 30s. You know what I mean? Right. So it's not I don't have a giant this big thing. It was more just. As Ron says on everything, it was reps. So everything I started doing in my late 20s has pushed into the 30s. But I would say, since I have to name something, I'll start out with a mistake. I had a phase where I was doing really, really well with sponsorships, and I opted to not work. And I was making a ton of money, and so everything was fine. And without saying anything terrible, my contract disappeared when it shouldn't have. So I went from making extremely good money to making nothing in 30 days. I was given a 30-day notice.
That had to be like terrifying, like literally terrifying.
That was a giant mistake, but it was also amazing because I knew exactly how much I was making, and it took me right around 100 days to get all the money back, like on a monthly income basis. And that was I think, a huge accomplishment because I realized, A, that I was a moron for sitting on my ass, but B, that if you have a brain and you've been successful before, and I've heard it from a lot of people, like losing it all technically, and I mean, I didn't like lose my credit or anything, but like going to zero, it just put me into gear. You know, I was probably made up half of it in a week, and then it was just grinding the rest back up. So I thought that was a good accomplishment because I always know that now. So even when I'm doing things that might be risky, I never really worry. I'm like, it'll work out. It always does. So what about you, Scott?
I'll just skip to my 30s because I feel like the things that were important to me in my 20s are not important to me at all now. Like a lot of the stuff that was important to me then that I would have thought was a big deal, I look back at it and I'm like, man, that's not, I don't know. But I would have to say getting clean in recovery, because I could say a bunch of other stuff, but it's only because I was able to figure out a lot of stuff about like follow through and just like I remember the first lesson I learned was to put my registration in the same place in my car. I was 2 weeks clean, and I remember realizing like I got a new registration or something. I was like, why don't I put that where I'm going to be able to find it? Otherwise, I could get pulled over and not have my registration handy, and then they give me a ticket, and that's going to give me a bad day. And who knows what kind of mood I would have already been in. And then from there, my life could fall apart. And all it takes is like me not being responsible for this stuff. So why don't I head that off by getting my shit together? You know what I mean? And then I can minimize the change. I mean, stuff still happens, but it was like thinking that way allowed me to have follow through, and it allowed me to complete a bodybuilding prep, and then allowed me to start helping other people. So like it one thing led to the next, but I would say it started for me with recovery. So like not using drugs was part of that, but it was like also not putting myself in a position where I like created drama that I didn't need,
Because the drama leads to the drama leads to the stress, which leads to the other stuff.
Yeah. Exactly. Yep. Exactly.
Yeah.
Growing the fuck up. That's another way of putting it.
Yeah. I think that's the number one error people make is they just try to quit stuff without changing their behavior.
Yeah. And then you white knuckle it, as they say, until you can't anymore because you're still in that terrible relationship and, you're still doing all the same things you were, you're just not using something. So for me, it was like really about like overhauling everything,
Right. I think it's awesome that you can remember that specific thing because it does show how important that was to the process, like the way your brain was thinking.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's a crazy thing. If you've never experienced that, that's a cool thing to hear backwards. You're like, holy shit.
It's common sense, but at the moment it was like a light bulb really turned on for me with that. I was like, why didn't I think of this all along? Probably stuff like my parents told me to do when I was a kid,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's funny. I've always been really on top of, paying bills, getting things done. If I get a notice in the mail, I do it immediately. I take it right to my computer and I do it, So like any of that sort of stuff. And I remember I looked at my driver's license. I don't know what year it was. It was just like last year or 2 years ago or whatever. I looked at my driver's license and I was like, holy fuck, my driver's license expires today.
Oh God.
I was like, holy shit. But I remember I was doing something online and I needed to pull my driver's license out. Yeah. And it was like noon. So I was like, fuck. The fucking
I gotta go.
It's just down here. Yeah, like it's just a few blocks from my house. It's like a 2-minute drive. And I was like, I guess I have something to do this afternoon. Like I'm gonna go fucking renew my driver's license. But it was just like such a shock to me. I was like, wow, that like could have like cost me, could have been a big ticket, could have been, you know what I mean? Like you just never know, right? But to me, that was stuff that I was sort of upset at myself. I'm like, how did I let that slide? Like, how did I not notice that? You know?
I don't think you get like notices or anything. You don't really think about it. It's not every year.
Yeah. You know, like Emily tells a story about one time, it was like 10 years ago. They're all going to Vegas. And they get to the airport and her fucking passport was expired.
Oh.
And she was so fucking pissed at herself.
Yeah.
And all her friends got on the plane and went to Vegas, and she turned around and went fucking straight downtown to Canada Place or wherever and fucking renewed her passport with like a quick, tried to do the fastest job. She got one the next day and she went down the next day.
Wow.
But like, that's wild. That sort of shit. Yeah. You know, what's that? Here's one. I got one. So if the guy's talking about traveling as a bodybuilder, but he asks, what's the worst thing that's happened to you traveling regarding your bodybuilding?
Oh God. Ron knows mine. I flew. Yeah, exactly. So I flew to Germany with Mutant, and I was in prep. So
your old sponsor.
Yes, my old sponsor, not the current one, because I've got a new one coming.
Yes.
They also, I've heard, look at a new athlete. Anyways, I get to Germany, and when I first get there, they've got those, those little carts you can get all your bags.
Yeah.
Well, I was waiting for my bags, but one of my bags was a cooler. I had prepped all my food for the week. It was there, no ice, no weirdness, no problems. I even checked ahead to make sure I could bring it. Everything was legit. And I walk over to a couple guys that are, I don't know what the hell you call them, customs officers, whatever the hell they are. And I said, hey, where do I get one of those carts? I don't have any of your money yet. And he's like, oh, go down to the end one. It takes carts. So I go down, I come back. Well, now they're just standing with me chatting. We're, talking it up. It's a good 20, 30 minutes before the bags come. Grab my bag, grab my cooler, put it on there. I turn around. I literally look at them. I'm like, hey, guys, see you later. And I go to walk out. A guy comes out of a door that also works with them, watches this whole interaction and goes, what's in the box? I'm like, oh, it's my food. Oh, you can't bring that. Long story short, first we go into the little room where he takes it all out and he's like, I could charge you per ounce or gram or whatever measurement for these things that you're bringing in. At this point, I'm just irritated. I'm like, well, are you going to? Because I want to go.
Yeah.
So are you going to throw it away? You want my credit card? What the fuck are we doing? Like, so they literally make me throw all of it away, but I can keep my rice.
You couldn't keep the meat, even though it was cooked.
None of it.
Huh.
They made me throw all of the meat away. I was just pissed, because I paid $100 additional to ship that. Plus, I prepped all the food for all those hours, made sure it was measured, bagged, ready to rock. And and what it is, it's just a very typical situation. You have one prick who decides to be an asshole. Yeah. I don't remember sleeping with his wife, but obviously I did. So
he didn't like bodybuilders.
Yeah, literally. I always think of that kind of shit when someone's a dick like that. I'm like, what happened in your life?
Yeah.
Who did what to you? Did you get jammed in a garbage can? What happened? It wasn't me. Fuck.
Yeah.
So anyways, that was the worst thing. But of course, we stayed at a good hotel. They ended up cooking all my meals every morning. It probably cost $1 billion. I don't remember, but we made it work.
Yeah. Yeah. I had an airline. I flew to Body Power with all my meals for the 2015 Canadas. So I was getting ready for Canada's a year I turned pro. And I checked my hard shell cooler with all my meals in it. I checked my bag, got on the plane, flew to England. I get there, my food's not there. My bag comes off, but my cooler doesn't come off. So we go looking for it, and they're like, oh yeah, they didn't put it on the plane. Huh. It's still sitting in Vancouver. And it was all frozen in a cooler. And I was like, oh, fuck. So I had no meals at all. So I went to, and I was fucking starving, like beyond starving. So I went to Burger King and I got 2 chicken sandwiches plain, and I just threw the buns away and just ate the chicken. And I was like, okay, I got some protein in me. And I think I had like 2 scoops away. So I had like 100 grams of protein. I was like, okay, I'm fucking fine. Like, I'll be okay for a little while. And then I got to the hotel and ordered some chicken breasts, and they charged me like $12 a chicken breast. And I was like, oh my God, this isn't going to work. So I think I put something out on social media, And Ben Pekulski messaged me.
No kidding.
And he's like, hey, my guy in London can get food for you. He's bringing all my meals up. So message him here, and I get there tomorrow, but he can bring meals up with mine. And I was like, oh shit. So I messaged the guy, and they were awesome, and they delivered food, and I was set for food for that trip. But yeah, that was annoying. The cool thing was on the way home, British Airways apologized, and they put us all in first class. So we had beds, and we flew home from London in fucking full bed capsules. It was awesome.
Nice.
But the worst thing that happened was, first time I went to North Americans, the flights, it was just an absolute disaster. It took me 21 hours to go from Edmonton to Cleveland. And
you walk?
And it was, well, we took off. We had a big fog delay. So I sat on the tarmac for 2 hours, and then we finally took off. And then they diverted us. So we didn't land in Chicago. They fucking diverted us to another airport. And then they flew us to Raleigh, South Carolina, because by the time I landed, I couldn't get my flight to Cleveland because I'm not in the right fucking city. So they put me on another plane, fly me to Raleigh, Carolina, and I wait there for like fucking hours, and then they get me on a plane to Cleveland, back up north to Cleveland. It was just the fucking worst. Of course, I didn't have enough meals. Like I was planning on it was like supposed to be a 9-hour trip,
Yeah.
Yep.
So it was a fucking shit show. But that was stressful. And I was just trying to stay hydrated because I didn't want to get all fucked up on the plane. I was just drinking and starving and drinking. And I remember texting Chad, and he's like, stay really hydrated. I don't care that you're hungry. Like,
yeah.
He's like, go just get leaner.
You'll be fine. You're a metabolic furnace right now.
But it's pretty stressful. You're going to your first North Americans, and you're supposed to weigh in Thursday night, and you miss the weigh in. So you have to go Friday morning really quick. Like I contacted someone, and they let me come Friday morning and weigh in, and it was fucked up.
Things are screwy this year. First of all, I don't have any. I'm not a pro bodybuilder like you guys. I haven't flown to Germany. Needed my food with me. I don't have any good stories but I did have a client this year who was doing the Latin American Championships, and she was going from Florida, and the flight was supposed to be a few hours, and then there were delays, and then the connection, and then she missed her connection and all that. It turned out being like she was supposed to get there at 3 p.m. and go to the check-in, all that. She didn't get there till midnight. And then we had just the next day to prep, to get her in shape for the, to get her conditioned for the show and all that. So that was kind of screwy. But any of the shows that I've done, I've driven to them. They're all in the States. They're all, a lot of it state level stuff. I flew to compete in Los Angeles just for fun. I was like, I want to go see what it's like to compete at one of the shows in LA. So I did the Titan Classic in 2017, and that was a blast, man. After that I came back, that was September, and I dieted from February and did a show in the summer, and then I did that one in September, and then it was in November 3rd. That's when I competed with Tommy at the Western. It was that year. But I didn't have any issues. It was it was golden. It was good. But like I said, I don't have as many you guys have traveled a lot. I can only imagine if I've seen a few little weird things. I think, one of my funnest times, though, I'll say, was I worked with a guy, Joe Russo, and he was a classic physique guy. And we carpooled. We drove together out to junior nationals where he needed to make weight. We had him down to no carbs, and eating just minimal vegetables, reducing the protein. And he was just going to squeeze in. And it was at the point where we stopped at a rest stop, and we brought the scale into the bathroom to make sure on the way, is he still under? Is he still under kind of thing? It was cool. Yeah. It was cool.
I've asked a lot of clients to pull the car over and weigh themselves. Hey, you're on the road for 6 hours. Let's get me a weight at 3 p.m. Just pull over and get a weight.
Yeah, I made an Instagram or video
level gram.
I was like, hey, two guys walking into a bathroom, together. Nothing. This guy's gonna strip down. Nothing strange here going on, guys.
Yeah. Just truck stop behavior.
Nothing to see here. Yeah. Nothing to see here. Keep walking.
Yeah.
He did get his pro card.
Wait, never mind.
Yeah. He got his pro card. He won his class, and then you know who he lost to for the overall? Brett Wilkin beat him for the overall.
No way.
Yeah. That's what I met Brett.
That's funny.
What weight class was he in?
It was classic. So he was like 5'10".
Oh, right. Yeah. So Brett Wilkins was classic. That's so fucking funny.
Yeah. Brett looks good.
I just don't see Brett Wilkins as classic. He's just not classic at all. That's
you didn't know that, Brett Wilkins.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just forgot. I forget. He put up a side chest the other day, like just in the gym.
Yeah.
Like off-season shot. And then you just reminded me he was classic a few years ago. Yeah. Pretty wacky. You got one, Dusty?
I'm scrolling. I have lots, but I'm a little more particular with which ones I like. You know?
Okay. I know.
Here's a good one. Thoughts on extremely low volume lifting for pros like Mentzer style.
Well, I mean, so I guess the rule is you should try to do the least amount of volume required to get the result you desire. So, I mean, there's obviously genetic components to this. Some people can probably do, well, we know some people can do much lower volume than other people. But Mentzer's like heavy duty stuff is like, that's pretty extreme. Like that's less volume than dog crap, isn't it? Isn't Mentzer's original heavy duty?
Oh yeah, no,
the least.
I really questioned if that was what he was doing, or if he took what he was doing and took it even further down, knowing that athletes would bump it up a little bit. Like dead serious, because it was too low. It was like go in the gym and do one set and go home, and it was like, you know, for legs, do one set of squats and then head out. I'm like, there's too much muscle. Like it doesn't, you know what I mean? So I really do believe that, and especially having read about him and heard more things, I do think he actually bumped it up even further, whether it was for that reason or just to be an extremist. But, you know, I agree with you. You nailed it, Ron. That's the name of the game right there. Is what, you know, get to that point. You don't want to be below it, and you don't want to waste too much time above it either. So I'm a firm believer in it, but I will tell you this. So I've started taking on more advanced guys recently, and I've been stunned to find out how few people know how far they can take their body. Like really good national level bodybuilders are sending me their training videos. And of course I'm not dealing with like a, 21-year-old kid. So I'm like trying to say it nicely, but like you're not even close, which is great news. Cause I'm like, you're already fucking awesome. Imagine what's going to happen, cause I can literally see, I'm like, oh, I just got 4 more, and then they rack it. And you're like, oh shit, why'd you stop? So with that being said, I think that most people can't do the low volume that they think because they don't take their sets anywhere near where they need to go.
Yeah, that's a key. I know a lot of stuff that I've read about Mentzer too is like guys that said, I watched Mentzer train and he still did, same thing Dorian did, where he was like warm up, prep set, and then all out set. And the prep set wasn't far from failure. Like I read stuff where people were like, the prep set was like almost slowing down, So like it wasn't what we think. I don't think. And you're right. The marketing thing might've been part of it. He might've been ahead of his time with that.
I bet. Cause he was really
a smart guy.
Yeah. And he was like anti the volume, anti the Schwarzenegger thing, He was like, you don't need all of that. And I also heard too that he got more extreme as he got older, and he did have schizophrenia. So there may have been a component there, but I don't know what the frequency was, but he was even like, legs once a month kind of like it was like every few weeks you were training a body part type thing. So
I know he also had like there was a bit of a speed habit, wasn't there? Wasn't he
Something like that, I hear.
sort of
yeah.
yeah, I think he used some meth. He was a 70s guy. They were using a lot of speed, you know. They didn't call it meth back then. I think they just called it speed. So, but yeah, that was the 70s, you know. And all the baseball players were popping the greenies, right?
Mentzer had those glasses though and that mustache.
I love this.
It was so good.
He did. He did. I remember I saw Mentzer. So I saw him training someone in person once. It's the only time I ever saw Mike, and it was at Gold's Venice in '96 when I was there for the first time. And I remember he came in at night, and he was kind of fat.
Yeah.
And he had a sweatshirt on, and he didn't look like, you know,
smelled like cigarettes.
But he still had muscular calves. I remember he had shorts and flip-flops on, and he still had like muscular calves. And he had a client, and it was like this guy that was obviously a bodybuilder, like trying to get huge type of bodybuilder. I mean, I still remember him. He had like a red bandana, and he was like super hardcore looking. And Mike had him on the standing calf raise. And he had I don't remember the calf raise, but I remember there were also some pins on it. And then he had plates loaded on top and stuff. Like it was super fucking loaded. And the guy got on it. And I remember standing right behind the guy and watching his set. And I remember watching just to see what his range was like. And he got like right to the top on like the balls of his feet and locked his calves on every rep.
Damn.
And I remember Mike got behind him and spotted him for like 4 reps. He was like, let's go, get it up, get it up, get it up. And he like forced some reps and then he was pulling down on it. He like, Mike like hung off the back of it at the bottom and made the guy do like a super stretch. And he was like, stretch. And he was pulling down. And then I stood there because I was like, what's going to happen next? Right? After that set. And he got off and Mike's like, okay, we're done. Stretch your calves. We're done calves. And the guy went and stretched his calves and they unloaded the machine. And that was a calf workout. And I was like, okay, yeah, well, he did do what I thought he did. Yeah. You know, at that point, as a trainer, at least.
I love that you wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to see if he was going to do 2 sets or 3 sets, right? You know, and I just saw him do 1. So, you know, the legend was maybe it was true. Maybe it was true. You know? Okay. Dusty got 1? He's laughing.
I do. Am I lagging, Scott?
You're lagging a little.
Lag.
Yeah, yeah.
Little lag.
You want to reconnect?
I had a second.
Okay. I was wondering.
I had a second where I thought my joke didn't land. So great. I think that Scott should send Dusty a second modem and write it off on the company expense.
It's the least he could do.
Pay for some better Wi-Fi, something like that.
Exactly. Yeah, it's tough times out here in South Carolina.
Do they have better Wi-Fi in South Carolina? Oh, sorry, guys. Sorry, everybody in South Carolina.
I highly doubt it. That's why I like it. It's super slow motion here. So I'm trying to get you. I want to finish with a strong question here.
Strong question.
Oh, that's funny. This person got mad at me. I have to say this out loud because I want to do it on mine too. I do a question box and they say, I did last time and you never replied. I'm planning on taking growth hormone. What are your thoughts? Those things make me laugh. I'm like, do you have any idea how many? I'd have to answer 200 fucking questions.
Yeah, and when they're just that vague, like there's nothing to go on. Like,
what are your thoughts about growth hormone?
Yeah.
Are you trying to turn pro?
Yeah, exactly. Do you have plenty of money? If you do, go ahead, do your thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Not?
Yeah. Don't break the bank to use growth hormone. Jesus.
Yeah,
I think that's a very valid point. That I think a lot of guys assume that that's going to be like the key. Once I get on growth, they'll always say that. Yeah, but once I get growth, and I'm like, once you get growth, you'll be short $1,100 every 3 weeks. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Let me give you a guarantee that's going to happen with your growth.
Right.
Oh, okay. This is a good one because I'd like to hear your guys' answers for myself. How do you maintain strength during a cut?
You have to eat enough to maintain the strength while still being on a cut. Like you have to remember that calories have to be in a green zone where you can feed the muscle and starve the fat. And when the calories get below that, you see negative stuff happen to muscle mass. And if calories are above that, you don't see fast enough fat loss. So it's all about surfing that curve, staying in that green zone to keep your strength. You know, that's how I look at it. And also too, as you reduce calories, don't increase training volume constantly. People do that all the time when they're dieting. Like they train all year and get big and strong. And then as they reduce calories, they start adding all these sets. And it's like, okay, well, you're kind of throwing off the equation now. We were trying to keep the variables to a minimum.
Right.
You know, so there can be a time for that and a place for that, like raising activity or whatever. But it's just sometimes it's overkill. And all of a sudden they're like, oh my God, my bench went down a plate. And it's like, well, what we added fucking 6 sets of chest and took away 1,000 calories and also added cardio and also added Cytomel and also did all this other shit.
Right.
So just watch how many variables you're constantly tweaking. Like keep it minimal. Like this week, I'm going to reduce my carbs. That's what I recommend.
What about you, Scott?
You know what I'd add to complement what Ron's saying is the length of your diet. You know, if you have to tear down a ton of fat in a really short period of time, you're going to have a hard time eating enough food to be able to maintain that strength. Yeah. That would be the other factor. So give yourself enough time where you can take it nice and easy and you might not lose that much strength. You know, it's like when you really have to, like, you know, throw everything in, push really hard, do all that cardio, pull all the carbs. That's when you feel it. Also halo testing.
Yeah,
it's a pro tip.
Also make you kill people. You know, I agreed on that part specifically, Scott, because every client I deal with, they'll ask me like, how long do we need? And depending on them, I'll be like 16 weeks, so give me 20, 12 weeks, so give me 16. Yeah. Like I always ask for an extra month, you know, so we can make it slow. The only other thing I was going to add, and this may not be for the person who asked, but a lot of people decide to get weak when they diet. Like right off the bat, I'll have people tell me 2 weeks in, like, I'm feeling the diet. And I'm like, no, you're not.
Yeah.
Because if you did an ounce of homework, you would actually understand that if you take away the extra, your body's functioning better. Typically in the beginning of a prep, if you were to shut your brain off and just do, usually within about 2 weeks, you'll notice your performance is getting better.
Yeah.
You're not in an excess. Your body's not tired. It's not digesting more food than it needs. I mean, if you've done your other things right, you're on a cycle that you haven't been on in months. Like, that's the thing and that's why I wanted you guys to answer first. I have to be cautious towards the end of a prep to remind myself that things can tear. Because I'm stronger in a prep than I am. I mean, last 2 weeks, I'm like, let's try 800 today. Fuck it. You know what I mean? So, because it's there.
I remember one year. I remember Chris. I was talking to Chris one year, Aceto, obviously, and he said that one of my favorite quotes of Aceto ever was, I said, man, I'm just smoking it in the gym. Like my workouts are just fucking nuts. And he goes, that's because you understand that you can still go 150 miles an hour with a half a tank of gas.
That's good.
It's so solid. But it's
a lot of people think if they're on a half a tank of gas, they can only go half as fast. No. You can actually go faster because you're lighter.
Exactly. It's funny though, because that's true. I mean, we see it all the time. At the very end, I understand, but I even think for a lot of people, that's mental. Like, if you walk into the gym and say, I'm tired, I'm not going to do well. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, you're right. The self-talk, man.
Yep.
Let's end on that. The self-talk. People have to remember that everything they allow themselves to think and accept is setting up what they're going to achieve, you know? And the things you say to yourself, like, you're the one listening, you know?
Yeah.
And when people prepare to get weaker, and I mean, like quite likely you're going to get a little weaker, but you have to, like, it's just like, that day you wake up and you think you might have a bit of a cold, but you just deny it.
Yeah.
And you still get a lot done that day, don't you? Mm-hmm. But then there's the day where you accept that you have a cold And as soon as you accept, or like a flu or something, as soon as you accept that you're sick, you're like, fuck. And now your day's fucked.
It's over.
You're not leaving the house. Yeah. So I guess my lesson is to live in denial.
Story of my life, Ron.
Just live in denial. I will be stronger today. Eating your like two ounces of oatmeal. So, or no oatmeal at all.
Yeah, exactly. Just looking at the box. It's nice.
Your egg whites and sugar-free ketchup. I'm going to bench 500 today for a 8 rep. Fucking shovel.
You should do it out of anger for being hungry. You're pissed off, so you're stronger.
You can't. Yes, exactly. Okay. I'm glad we have like every episode of a TV show should end with a final lesson.
There it was. That was our quote.
Like every good 80s sitcom, there's that little moment, just like Full House. Every episode of Full House, you get that little moment where the kids would learn a lesson. They'd get a little thing from Bob Saget, a little nugget of wisdom.
There it was.
Okay, guys. Much appreciated. I want to give a shout out before we close the show to Operation Greenlight going on in BC tomorrow. So the gym closure order is set to expire at midnight. So all the gyms are opening tomorrow. But the BC government has a terrible history with restaurants of telling them at the very last minute, literally the day before, that they're not allowed to open. So then the restaurants waste like 10 grand in fresh food, and it's brutal and it's criminal. Yeah. So Operation Greenlight started by a bunch of gyms here, mainly Iron Energy Gym in Kelowna kind of got the movement going. They're dealing with their health authorities up there and staying open. And it's been really good. And tomorrow, all the gyms that are members of Operation Greenlight are opening no matter what, even if they come on TV today at 4 o'clock and tell us not to. So enough is enough. Canada's a very different animal than the States, but we're going to see how this goes. So hopefully everyone just opens tomorrow with no problem. But if they do come on TV today and tell gyms, oh, by the way, you're not going to open tomorrow, Operation Greenlight is happening. And there's hundreds of gyms all across the province that are fucking opening.
Right on.
Yoga
That's
studios,
awesome. Everything.
So, yeah, I'm going to put our pressure on these people. So everything that everyone did during this time is very much appreciated by everyone in the gym industry. We did that video to try to help awareness, but there's hundreds of other gym owners that did tons of social media work and, kept their gyms open in whatever health region they're in and kind of dealt with the issues that came their way. So, it's all going down. So just a little shout out to everybody on Operation Greenlight, and much appreciated. And we'll be open tomorrow, regular hours.
Nice.
Okay. Thanks, guys. Remember, everybody, like, share, subscribe, comment, and what was the other one?
God, what would you be without me? Nothing.
Okay. Dusty, enjoy the snow.
I shall.
Okay. Remember, everybody, it's just bodybuilding.